Am I wrong for screaming at my husband and daughter because I didn't clean the house? So I, 37-year-old female, have a husband, 38, and a daughter, Ellie, 17-year-old female. I won't specify exactly what my job is because it's not relevant to this situation, but long story short, I was offered some extra training from my workplace in order to gain higher qualifications and therefore go on to a higher paid ranking in the business. This training was a week long, which isn't much. However, it was about 6 hours drive from where I live, which meant I had to book a hotel and stay there for the week. I asked my husband if he could look after Ellie for the week. He agreed happily, and that was that. Now, I'm not exactly a perfectionist and our house is by no means pristine. However, I do like to make sure it is clean and keep it at least somewhat tidy and presentable. I clean surfaces, toilets, floors, etc. Regularly, however, there can be a little mess about the place, which is not unusual. Walking through the front door to my house after that training week absolutely horrified me. We have 2 cats and they are litter trained. The litter was full with cat sh*t and it stank the house out. Neither my husband nor my daughter, both able-bodied people, had bothered to take care of the cat litter. There were dirty dishes piling up everywhere in the kitchen and they smelled bad too. There were muddy footprints on the carpet, food smushed onto the sofa. The house was just a complete state. After a week of work training for 15 hours each day, I did not have it in me to get angry in that moment. I just sat on the filthy sofa and cried. Then my daughter and husband came down the stairs, complaining that I hadn't immediately started washing the dishes as soon as I came through the door, so they could make food and drink. At this point, I was really starting to see red. What made me lose my temper completely was when my husband said I was ungrateful for him giving up his time to look after Ellie all day. I lost it. I screamed at my husband saying that he has no right to expect me to be grateful when he left the house that I paid for in such a disgusting state. I then said that Ellie is a 17-year-old girl who can look after herself for the majority of the time, which meant he was completely over-exaggerating the extent of how much time he gave up. I then said to both of them that if they are going to treat me like this, they can just leave and go somewhere else, and live like tramps elsewhere. My husband took Ellie and left. I don't know where they are now. My guess is that they went to my husband's parents' house. Am I the AH? Am I wrong for telling my sister there's a reason her kids chose to live with their dad? I, 32-year-old female, have a 14-year-old daughter, Jess. Her father and my husband died in an accident when she was young, so it's been just us 2 for a long time. As a result, we are very close and she's a lot more open to me than most kids are with their parents. Around a week ago, she asked me if I could take her to the movies on a date with a guy in her class. I know the guy distantly because they've done some extracurriculars together and I was thrilled he was my daughter's first boyfriend. I took them a few days ago and they ended up hanging out at our house for a bit afterwards. He was extremely polite and maybe it's just the mum inside me, but I couldn't be happier for her. I went to my older sister's house for coffee earlier this morning. Backstory: my sister has 2 teenagers, 16 and 17, who live almost full-time with their dad. They had a very messy divorce around 3 years ago, and both kids choose to live with their dad. The reason for this was because my sister was extremely overbearing on them. She was the kind of mom who believed kids should have no privacy and she should run their lives until they were adults. I know she had many arguments with them because she would take away their doors, not let them hang out with friends, search through their phones every night, etc. This was the primary reason for her divorce, although she won't admit that. While I love her, as someone who grew up with little privacy, I fully understand why her kids don't want to live with her. My daughter came up in conversation and so brought up her first date. When I explained how it went, my sister laughed and told me that I must be joking. When she realized I was serious, she told me I was a terrible mother for letting my daughter walk all over me and not setting boundaries. She ranted on for a while, but she basically said that 14-year-olds are incapable of going out themselves and that I was being lazy and neglectful by allowing her to do that. She also said I would never allow my kids to do that, so I replied by saying, "That's exactly why your kids drive with their dad." She got very quiet and then told me to leave. When I got home, I started thinking more about what I said, and while at the time, I thought I was simply telling her what she needed to hear, now I'm wondering if I crossed the line. Am I wrong for threatening to call the cops on my parents and calling my dad a human trash can after what they did to my sister? This entire thing honestly sounds like some type of soap opera and caused people a lot of grief, so I'd like third-party opinions. I, 17-year-old female, have a half-sister on my dad's side, Jasmine, 27-year-old female. Me and Jasmine aren't super-duper close, but she's very nice. We do keep in touch and just vent about life. Dad isn't very understanding towards Jasmine? I don't really know how to put it, but from what I've seen and heard, he's very pushy towards her and almost always makes some remark about how she's not doing enough. Mom doesn't like her much and says that she doesn't respect them. Jasmine has a friend, John, early or mid-30s male. I put quotation marks because it's obvious she and John are a lot more than friends, and she has told me before that she loves him, but she refers to him as a friend in front of Mom and Dad, although they also suspect otherwise. John lives in a neighbor state to us. Jasmine was going to catch a train there and meet him at the station. Long story short, and from the details I heard, Mom got hold of Jasmine's phone when she came over at some point and blocked John's number. She has her Gmail on her phone, which Mom also blocked John's email from. Jasmine didn't realize until way later. This caused a huge misunderstanding between them. She basically went to the station, waited for hours, and he didn't show up. Jasmine was in a really bad state, and I couldn't believe my parents could pull something like that, so I asked them, and Mom said she and Dad thought this needed to be done for her own good. I shouted at them, threatening to call the cops if they don't apologize to Jasmine and try to make things right. Side note, I don't know if the cops would do anything in this case or if they're relevant, I just said it in the moment. Dad said I was butting into adult matters and I was too young to understand. I said I understood enough and called him a human trash can. They said I need to mind my mouth and apologize to them, which I refused to. Mom said how she can't believe I'd act like this, and I've picked up on Jasmine's tendencies. My uncle came over the other day, and I heard Dad crying to him about how he's so hurt by his daughter, me. I think what I said was justified, but there's quite a few people telling me I'm in the wrong, so did I go too far with my outburst? Am I the AH? Am I wrong for refusing to help my ex-wife pay for a surgery? I and Sierra divorced last year because she used money from our joint account without asking me. She spent it on a boob job because she felt like her boobs had become ugly after pregnancy and breastfeeding. I had been completely against the idea of spending money on a plastic surgery, but she went and got it without my knowledge. I divorced her immediately after coming to know about it. We have a 2-year-old daughter now whom we co-parent. I have my daughter over every weekend and I pay Sierra child support. Her job doesn't pay her a lot, but she scrapes by somehow. For the past 1 month or so, she's been leaving our daughter at our home more often. When I asked her why, she said that her back was hurting a lot because of the boob job. I said okay and agreed to have our daughter at my home more often. A week ago, she called me asking me to pick up our daughter immediately because she wasn't able to even stand up without it paining a lot. I went and picked up my daughter and went home. She didn't call or text me until yesterday. Yesterday, I got a call from her and she asked me for $4,000. I asked her why, and she said that she couldn't take the back pain any longer and was going to get her breast implants removed. I refused and told her that it's not my problem and I don't see any reason why I should help her. She pulled the "I'm the mother of your child" card, and I told her I'm only obligated to give her child support and co-parent. She said that it was a very really health issue that she's facing and I should be willing to help her for the sake of her health. When I refused again, she asked me to loan her the amount. I told her that I don't trust her to pay me back the interest or even the principal amount. She started crying and cut the call. I've been getting calls from her mother and sister, and they're all calling me a jerk for being so petty. I told them they can pay for her surgery if they feel so bad for her, and I cut the call. I have blocked her sister and mother. I also texted Sierra that she shouldn't try to call me except regarding our daughter. I've not got any calls or texts after that. She ignored my last messages too. Am I the AH?